Charme, peace and freedom. Nini, welcome. I'm Queen Mother Imakhu, and welcome to Shenu Living. Shenu Living is a show designed to help you find peace and joy and success through ancient Kemetic principles. And Shenu Living is produced by my multimedia company, Akeru Multimedia. And I'm so glad that you're here. Please click like, and also be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and share that I am on the air. It's my pleasure to be here with you tonight. Reverend Tamu, how are you this evening? Peace and freedom. It's good to see you as always. And I hope that you had a great day in spite of this heat wave. How's the heat wave hitting you there in Pennsylvania? Give thanks, give thanks. I'm going to shoot you a text tomorrow, okay? Actually, probably after the broadcast here. So, heat wave. Oh my. We have really been experiencing some stuff. Peace and blessings. Brandon, it's good to see you. Peace and blessings. Reverend Tamu, you and your beloved went on a bike ride this morning? Wow, you've got some serious tenacity. Because I was hiding in my house, okay? And here with the air conditioning. Root trackers. Cousin, how you doing? It's good to see you as always. Please, y'all share that I am on the air. And, let me just appropriately open here, welcoming Beset and Desu to open the way and guide us safely through. Give thanks. In the shade near the water, in the woods, so it wasn't too bad. But by 11:30 a.m., it was super hot. Yeah. I really give you credit. My gym is only 2 blocks from me, and it was nothing but a thought today. Even though it is highly air conditioned and all that, and I love my gym. I said, I'm just going to have to do my workout here in the house. And I actually did get a workout because I was moving a lot of things in my apartment and, doing the whole African feng shui thing, if you will. And, when that happens, then you change the energy of your place, and it should then propel you into a more accommodating and peaceful flow so that you're able to enhance your life and hopefully get back into your rhythm. I did that because of the fact that I have been shifting. As I told you all, I've been very successful on my coffee journey and on this journey of the keto, high protein, low carb. So I've been right. My head's been opened up and all that. So giving thanks and praise. But I had a funny adventure though. I did venture out for a little bit. We have so many things that are popping off in the city all the time. And especially now that it's summer, we have all these wonderful parks here. And I have a park. Well, I have 2 parks that are close by me. And one was having a farmer's market. So a friend of mine called me to remind me of that and also another activity that was going on. And so I said, well, I'm just going to choose one. And so I went to this farmer's market, picked up some really lovely cacao tea, which I'd never had before. I've had cacao in a number of forms, but to have it as a tea form, wow, I had a sample. It was really good. So I got some. And but prior to that, my friend came over to help me with moving my air conditioner. I asked him if we could do that before we headed out to the park. So he came over, did all this prep, unscrewing the thing out of the window and having to bang the window open because it was stuck from the heat, and the paint was actually, I just had it open. My landlords had painted my window shut, which is not right. So they had to open it for me because it's not legal to paint windows shut, okay? And I was suffering. So anyway, um, but the windows were stuck again, having to bang the windows open, and then taking the air conditioner from my back room, wanting to bring it here into my living room because the fact that it does cover a lot of space, but I just didn't want it on me in my bedroom anymore. I have an overhead fan that keeps me very cool, and I wanted to be able to open my window. So if the air conditioner was in it, can't open it, right? So brought it all the way in here to the front room, and got the window unstuck again, and it didn't fit. It's not that it was too big, it's just that there's this little gated filigree thing that's over my window, and so it didn't extend out quite far enough. It was this short. So you're supposed to have it fit in, and then you screw it in, and this way you're able to do the little accordion thing on the side, and it just wasn't happening. So all that was for naught, and took it out of the window, put it back in my bedroom. So now I'm just gonna have to change my bed around so that it's on a different angle, and yada yada yada. But it's okay because I've been contemplating doing it anyway. Why? Because I felt that this rhythmic pattern that I was in needed to have a change up. So do you remember the Lee Parkway? That's where we were. And John Lennon's favorite park in Allentown. Can you use a piece of wood? That's what I had to do. A piece of wood for, oh no, you mean for the air conditioner? No, because, it's supposed to set in, and yes, I do remember the Lee Parkway. Yeah, that's beautiful that you were there. Yeah, beautiful spot. Yeah, I figured Lehigh Parkway. Yeah, sorry. Um, yeah, I have an interesting story about that. One time when I was driving, that's another whole thing. Um, but like when you put it in, it's supposed to fit to the window pane, so that way you can screw it in. It's supposed to be a perfect fit. It's not that it wasn't going to sit on the ledge, because actually there was plenty of ledge space. It's just that there wasn't enough room to extend it out in order for it to fit in the window, So I said, okay, so be it. Hey, change of plans. So what's the plan B? Yeah, so I'll be continuing with moving things around after we get off. So I was talking about the rhythm of life and the principle of rhythm. We spoke yesterday about the Kabbalion, which is believed to be the wisdom writings of Jehuti that were left behind. It's said that there were these three initiates who pulled them together and put them down. Whatever the case, the wisdom is sound. Okay, it's sound doctrine. And you'll find as you learn more about the Kabbalion that it's true. I was first introduced to the Kabbalion back in 1996. And it has taken a lot of time for it to fully unfold. Wisdom is not instantaneous. You may get knowledge instantly, but there are layers in coming to understand a lot of times what something truly, truly means. And so it wasn't until I got into my 50s that I started to truly get how all of these applied, because I'd had enough living under my belt and then some in order to do the comparatives and to really understand. So one of the 7 principles is the law of rhythm. We were talking about vibration the other day. We've talked about it quite a bit. I listen to the Kabbalion on audio and I have the book. Yes, it's excellent that you have the book so you can make notes. And also, yes, you can hear the Kabbalion on YouTube. There is a favorite rendition that I have where the way that is filmed, you see the pages flip, so it has the actual pages, right? And because it says we did a six months book study on the Kabbalion, um, mhm, 2017. Yeah, it takes about that long, and I'll bet you now that you have different insight into it, since it's years later, and you're wiser and older, right? Did everything hit you right away, or was it something where you had to really do some intense inner work in order to get it? Because that's what it's designed to do. And then also the thing is that with the Kemetic guardians, we talked extensively about that yesterday. There are guardians that are assigned to every principle. And also in my research, I have found Kemetic text or scripture that applies with each principle. So I shared with you the other day my little wall altar for the principle of vibration, and this one is my one for the principle or law of rhythm. The principle itself says everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Think about a pendulum. Samaya, welcome. It's good to see you. Pendulum swing. At first, it's equally on each side. Then eventually, it gets smaller and smaller until it's in the center. But you have to respect the pendulum swing and where it is. Peace and blessings, Brother Deshaun. How are you? Respect the swing. Respect the pattern. We talked yesterday about patterns and the letter N and how this represents vibration, water movement, but also rhythmic patterns. The corresponding scriptures, and these are from the Peret Emcheru and Ger, which is the book of coming forth by day from night, which has been misnomed the book of the dead. Anuk Heru Kened Hek. I am Heru, traversing the ages. Wutuni Nestati. I have commanded my seat. Anuk Wunen Tri M3. I am Netshur Wunen, from season to season. Understanding the seasons, understanding timing, understanding the pulse of where you are in your life and also the things that are happening around you. We've been talking a lot over the last several days about intuition, sensing, and understanding what is going on around you and seeing where you fit in or not, or maybe where you should not fit in. One of the greatest ways of sabotaging yourself is by not recognizing when you're in your season and trying to force fit something that is not supposed to be, or perhaps you're trying to speed up the timing on something, or make something happen when it really should not. If we look at the story of Heru and Satesh and their very renowned battle, we see that when Satesh and Satesh and his nephew Heru are in competition with each other and duking it out, battling for the throne of Wasir, who is the father of Heru and the brother of Satesh. And Satesh forced himself into a position of power that he did not deserve. He stole the throne from his brother Wasir by having him killed twice. He was resurrected, and then after Satesh found out, he went off and made sure that he was good and dead. So his son, Heru, was the rightful heir to the throne. And he is very angry, resentful, somewhat spoiled, because he's definitely loved by the community that his mother, Aset, has brought around him, recognizing that she could not do it by herself and that he needed to have wide influence of those who loved and cared for him. Okay. But he was justifiably angry because he was living in substandard conditions, because he rightfully should have been in the palace. His uncle threw his mother out after their father died. Now she was the co-ruler of Kemet. Okay, so both of them lost their seats. Wasir lost his life, and Sachesh is doing all kinds of things that you would not think that were becoming of a relative. Now we all know that story, right? I'm sure we can all attest to different situations where family members did us dirty. So Aset had a different approach in terms of understanding that she had a job to do. Heru was not born even when all this happened. And then when he was born, he was forced to live among the commoners. And he was like, why is life so hard? He was a sickly kid. It just seemed like there were problems. Satesh tried to kill him when he was a baby. And yes, he was victimized, but also he was pretty myopic in his view on what was due him. That there are people who maybe know that they're entitled to things, but then they have this whole attitude of entitlement that kind of puts you off. He was brash. He was disrespectful to his mother, and all he wanted was what he wanted. And he wasn't learning the compassion lessons and love lessons along the way, and the wisdom lessons of fairness and ruling from a just and even-handed place in order to take over the throne of Kemet. So he had some work to do. He openly challenged his uncle when he became of age, and they went to war. There were some really dirty things that happened. Really dirty things. And the thing is that because Heru was forcing the energy of his entitlement so much, it was actually messing him up. He was sabotaging himself. Now, there were cycles that were clearly played out within this whole saga. When Heru won the battles, because there were a lot of battles, okay? When Heru won, it was day. When Satesh won, it was night. And it was back and forth like that. Day, night, day, night, day, night. Which is a regular cycle in living in itself, but it's also a metaphor for honoring that there are patterns in life. Sometimes things are here, sometimes they're here. Sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like this. But Heru did not come into his own and remain victor until he had his eye gouged out by his uncle. Satesh was rough. But if you know his story, you can understand why he is the way he is, but it doesn't justify his actions. Anyway, we won't get into that. But he actually gouged out the eye of his nephew. So now he becomes what was then known as Heru the Blind. Now, see, Heru means day, it means light, it means spiritual awakening. And we talked about this symbol. I've made a lot of notes on it since, yeah, because I just do that. Okay, so we've talked about this symbol, the circle with the dot in it. That is the symbol for day, meaning day, daily, but also the symbol for awakening. And so he had become Heru the Blind. And it was symbolic because the fact that he was truly not operating from a place of balance. Why? He was ignoring his intuition, and he was ignoring the strategy that goes along with being in a battle. Satesh, he was wily, but he understood the art of war. And one of the things that he was absolutely superlative in was strategy. He strategized everything, whereas Heru was just kind of flying blind. He was going strictly from his anger, from his emotions, from his desire to get what was his, but he didn't see that it was not just about him. The battle was for his family, for the resurrection of his father, who would be resurrected if he were able to balance things out. Because his father was in the Duat, okay, languishing in the Duat, and that's, well, I won't get into that today, but and then also vindication for the people of Kemet, because the fact that Satesh was running Kemet like we've seen 45, and like the proposed um, kingship that is afoot regarding the presidency right now. But anyway, he was just running amok and doing what he wanted to do. And he completely upset the balance that existed in Kemet. But to everything, there is a season. Mm-hmm. And if you come to a place where you know how to shift up the energy at an appropriate time, or work within the energy, knowing the cycles, then you're able to be victorious. Now, here's what happened. So he gets his eye gouged out. Now this is Heru, and he is completely humbled. He has no choice but to yield. And he goes to, in some stories it says Heteru, others say Jehuti, to heal his eye. And so his eye is healed, and it becomes his metaphorical third, or what we call first eye. Okay, but third eye, because one eye, two eye, one eye is gouged out. It's healed. Okay, so it's actually his third, it becomes like a third eye metaphorically. But anyway, when that happens, then something truly wakes up in him. And he realizes that he has been ignoring his intuition. He was ignoring the advice from his mother, who he really took for granted. In one story, he chopped her head off. And it had to be replaced. Jehuti hooked that up and fixed it so that she, But anyway, he himself had come to the place where he started running amok just like his uncle. Once he came into balance, then he realized that he was truly out of rhythm, because of the fact that he did have a destiny that was set for him. This is why his mother worked so hard to make sure that he was on his destiny road. She knew it was her role to get him to the throne, to be the savior of Kemet. So she stayed on point, but he didn't. But now healed and awakened and calm, centered, balanced, he realized, oh, this ain't just about me. This is for my ancestor, my father, who was languishing in the Duat. It is for my mother, who has done all these wonderful things for me. It is about our family. It is about the guardians. It is about the people of Kemet, who I want to rule in my father's place. And he realized that it was not about ruling from a place of ego. In carrying on his father's and his mother's legacy, it was about teaching harmonious living to the people, teaching independence in creating profits, entrepreneurship, in also teaching agriculture, truly teaching people how to live well. If he had stepped onto the throne with all of that rage and fury that he had carried with him, then he would have been no different than his uncle. So things were balanced. And he came to understand the meaning of his name. Because you see, this symbol right here, the circle with the dot, also represents seasons. Haru came to understand the importance of honoring seasons. Sometimes you'll have, let's say, sports figures who keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. You're supposed to hone your craft. And maybe they get kind of anxious, tell the coach, put me in, put me in. But the coach may recognize it's not ready yet. His zeal is there, or her zeal is there, but it's not their time yet. Once the season comes, the person is in their season, then boom, boom, things flow, right? Now, Annie Frederick, peace and blessings. It's good to welcome you. Good to see you. It takes patience to be able to watch the ebb and flow of seasons. We talked yesterday about being in the water and feeling the water come in and then the tide go out, and you're being in that water and understanding that it is not about just standing there and knowing the water is going to just stay like that, unless you're in a pond. Okay, if you're in a pond, you're in a lake, still water like that, then it's different. But with moving water, there are currents, and they flow out and they flow in. We have seen patterns within our governments. If you look up what happens in the presidential race that originally had Lyndon Baines Johnson against Richard Nixon, you'll find a lot of parallels. Just like you will find a lot of parallels if you look up the presidency of Lincoln and also of President Kennedy. So many eerie parallels. Sometimes it's just a matter of being able to look back, having that Sankofa moment, looking back and retrieving the information for today so you can compare. And you can see that we flow in and out of cycles, and also that things will come full circle at times, well, most of the time. And if you allow it to, right? Shenu, the word Shenu, things coming full circle. And then there's also Pekarit, which is honoring the circle of time, but it's also on honoring karmic time. People would try to advance others' karma if they have done wrong to them. And, there are sometimes you find that you do need to handle things, but other times you need to just really sit back and just trust that it will be taken care of, because this symbol is also about recognizing when karma comes. You may be riding high from something that you did, and maybe you attained in an ungainly manner. But your time's coming. Trust and believe. I've seen it. And also in situations where people have used or misused mysticism to thrust them into fame and fortune. And sometimes you have these artists where you look and you say, where'd they come from? It just seemed like they came out of nowhere. And some have taken matters in their own hands. They've gone and visited their local mystic, shall we say, okay? You may have someone who is practicing um, in a way where they are just manipulating energy on other people's behalf, whether they deserve it or not. Where you're just basically a hired gun. Pay me, and then I will make sure that this happens. Now, I'm not even going to go into the karma that befalls that individual who chooses to do that, because also the person can be interfering with a person's karma. Like when a person does something, they do something really, really wretched, and they go to the local mystic, and next thing you know, they're completely out of those circumstances. And people are just like, how is it these people are always able to get away with this? No, they don't always get away with it. We don't see the ways that they end up suffering on a lot of other levels. And why is that? Because by not owning up to what they have done, they have thrown off their own rhythmic pattern, and it has propelled them into another whole pattern that they have to adjust to, and maybe that they don't deserve. But Pekarit Puank, the circle is life. That's a Kemetic saying. It's another way of saying karma is karma. It's about action, the actions that you do. If you are able to express contrition, okay, for something that you really have done wrong. Now, I know there are situations where people will be wrongly blamed for something, and then their lives are ruined because they're falsely imprisoned. We as a society need to be more on top of that, because that's just plain not fair. And you need to make sure you have enough people who give a damn to stay on top of the situation to get the person freed. But what about those who put the innocent into those situations? It catches up with you. Eri is action, but it is also energetic pattern. And again, understanding the pattern behind what you do. So you had a long day. It's hot. If it's a day like today, and you've done this, and that, and your body is telling you, stop, sit down, cool down, don't push it. You have to honor your body. You need something cool to drink, then you get it. If you need to just sit down with some nice, beautiful music, then you play it. Or if you just need to sit and be quiet, you need to turn off the lights and just learn to enjoy where you are. Yes, it's hot. This is the cycle that we're in. Is it a natural cycle? Maybe, maybe not. Some say it's not. Others say that it is because the fact that we've got the hurricanes that are happening. But we do also know that hurricanes tend to hit during this time of year. And I mentioned about the belief in water tradition that hurricanes actually represent ancestors who are playing out their own version of karma. Gets to be a lot, right? But still, that the best thing to do is to honor the cycle. If you know that it's coming, then you either get up out of there or you do what you need to do to prepare. Even like when you know that it's going to rain. Like today, it was warm, warm, warm all day. And then when I ended up leaving to go to the farmer's market, I noticed that it was not only stodgy, but it was also overcast. And I said, I better bring my umbrella so that I don't get caught in the rain that I knew was coming. And my friend was like, nah, it shouldn't rain. I was like, it's going to rain. I knew it wasn't going to rain a lot, but I knew it was going to rain. And while I do love the water and I love the rain, I really didn't feel like coming home wet, drenched. So, surely enough, we got about 20 steps away from my door, and all of a sudden, plink, plink. I went to the farmer's market, but I knew to come home after that, all right, because I didn't want to get caught in a possible downpour. But still, the fact is, as much as I really don't like carrying an umbrella, although I do it in the summer uh, now to protect myself from the sun. But I generally don't like carrying extra things. Like I have a small bag that I carry, one of those that's over there. It holds a lot of stuff. It's shaped like this. Hold on. It's an over-the-shoulder bag that fits under your arm. And so I mean, I just don't like carrying a lot of stuff. But when you need to get an umbrella, because you have common sense, because you're aware of the cycles, you're aware of the weather pattern, and then what's going to happen, then you honor that, right? So it's the same thing with life. The pendulum swing. Right now, we are experiencing a weird pendulum swing. But see, this is the thing. Let's go back to the presidential race. I knew after we went through the whole Reagan era, um, that things were going to end up going to a more liberal agenda and more democratic, right? So then we had Clinton in office, okay? And then after that, I knew that season was going to play itself out and that things are going to get pulled back this way. Now, sometimes there are people who go out of their way to make sure, oh no, we're bringing the pendulum back this way, okay? So then we had the Bush years. And, so then, eventually we had President Obama and then 45 and then Biden. Who knows what's going to happen this time? I say that, but having a strong hunch. And then, of course, when we finish our 42-day cycle, just before it, I will do the oracle for the year and we'll have greater insight. But the last oracle reading for this year indicated that there was going to be a great deal of political upheaval that was going to affect us locally, internationally too. So, but then again, looking at the patterns, look it up. You'll see. Go back and look up the Lyndon Baines Johnson versus Nixon presidential race. Now, it may end up predicting some things because of that, or projecting some things because of that, or the pattern could be changed. So there could be something different that happens simply because folks will look at history and say, oh no, we ain't doing that again. So we're going to push to make sure it doesn't happen like it did that time and bring us to yet another era. But it is a matter of examining the cycles. Now, when you push yourself into a situation, when you force fit yourself into something, like for instance, let me use myself as an example. There was a relationship years ago that I was in. This was back in late 90s. And everything in me was saying, you really need to get out of this. And I remember even going to a friend who is an Ianifa, and because at one point we did, 2 times we did break up, 3. And each time when he asked for me to take him back, I took him back. But the 3rd time, it was just bizarre. And so then I went to my friend who was an Ianifa. It's again a long time ago. I was like, can you do something to fix this? And she said, you really want him back? And I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about it. And she was like, well, okay, yeah, but you could be really pushing yourself against something that's not supposed to be, because after all, he's been driving you crazy, and he can come back, but he's not going to change. He's still going to be the same person. Yeah, yeah. And I came to realize that she was right. You see, when a relationship is like dead and buried, then you should just leave it alone. Don't go trying to shovel it, getting a shovel and trying to dig up the corpse. I wrote about that in my first book. I mean, so it's just not a good thing to do. Okay, there are some people who have situations where they can return to it years later, and situations will change. But if you're dealing with something where it's just not even, it wasn't good the first time, the second time, or the third time, then you really need to take a clue. And then the fact that I kept interrupting this flow, where I was in this really positive flow, and then I'd taken back, and then things would just get you know jacked up. um, Especially when you're on a trajectory for success. Like I said, we say Erdani and Bunikani. Erdan, hold on a second. Erdani and Bunikai. Take me to my higher place. Okay, so you're on your trajectory up, and then here comes somebody who's just like, oh, look where she's going. Wow, I want to grab onto that, right? So now your rhythm is thrown off, because you got this dead weight that's hanging on to you. So now that's thrown off your rhythm. And see, this is where we just mess ourselves up so much. And we have to make sure that we have a firm belief in ourselves to understand and honor when you are being recognized by the universe. Okay, come on, this is your destiny. Come on, hey, you're in a good place. Come on and ride. All right, and then you're on your chariot, and then you decide to stop and bring along a bunch of deadbeats. Crash burn. Arendelle, yes, take me to my higher place. Erdani in Bunikai, take me to my higher place. So you have to recognize, you're in this pattern. You're in this. Your season has finally come. Maybe you've gotten offered this position that you've wanted for a long time. I've made the mistake of turning things down because of the different people in my life. And then you got to fight to get yourself back into your rhythm. If these people are meant to be there, then they're going to support you and be with you for the ride, okay? Both there together, yes. Others, you turn around and you look and you're like, how did you get here? And you realize that you did it. You let them in. Well, some will force, again, they will force fit themselves into something, right? And you have to just recognize that when this is just going to mess up your flow. You know how, like, I was talking about a couple of weeks ago, there was a dance party over at NJPAC, the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. They have this outdoor concert series. And so they had Felix Hernandez, and he's there playing all the music of our generation and some really great house music. And there's something about house music. Oh, my goodness. The rhythm. I intended to stay for a half an hour. I stayed the entire session. It was like 2.5 hours, right? And I mean, you had just a huge crowd of people. Everybody's just moving. We're all on each other, right? Ordinarily, that kind of thing would really bother me, because I just don't like a whole bunch of people on me like that, okay? But somehow when you're caught up in that rhythm, and all the heads are moving, all the bodies are moving, and it's hypnotic, right? You're in it. You're really in it. If you love dancing like I do, right? And even for people who don't really love dancing, they just still, some were sitting out on the lawn just enjoying themselves and just enjoying being in the atmosphere because there was so much happiness in the air where everybody is in this flow. Oh, yeah. So sometimes you have to make a decision about whether you should stay longer, whether you should have left earlier because you stayed at the party too long. Sometimes you don't need to be there. You have to really make those decisions. There's line dancing that happens here in Newark once every two. What is it? Once or twice a month. And I've known about this for about 6 years, and I've not been able to go. Today, I got an evite saying, "Hey, you can go to this event," and I was like, "Wow, I can finally go to this event." But then I thought about it. I said, "You don't like being out late at night, okay? And you have all these things that you need to catch up on." And also, I had to admit, it just didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel right. I was, part of me was just like, yeah, because especially, listen, I'm a boomer. Nobody parties like boomers. I told y'all I'm the partying priestess, okay? I just really enjoy going out dancing and socializing. I love it. But I also know that when I want to be home and working on something, I want to be home. And I stopped for a moment and I listened to my body and to my intuition. And everything was saying, let it pass. The time will come when you'll finally be able to go. You've waited 6 years. You can wait some more. You have some pressing things you need to finish that you promised to get done, and you promised yourself you would get done in a certain time frame, right? So I realized, no, I don't need to go. But I had to have that conversation with myself. I mean, I even sat down and, just really weighed out no. But ultimately, I ended up listening to the reason of my body and my intuition. Mm-mm. Now, there are stories about people who go against their intuition. Your intuition is usually trying to keep you on your path and in your correct flow. And they don't listen, and then something not too cool happens. You may run into somebody who you don't even like, and it's just going to mess up your vibe. You may end up getting into some kind of an altercation, that you weren't even meant to be in, or the wrong place at the wrong time. So this is where it's important to really pay attention. And again, honoring the cycle. Sometimes we come from a place of fear and try to force fit things because we're afraid this opportunity will never come again. That, going back to the whole thing with that dream job, it may be that it looked great from the outside, but it really wasn't for you. And then you get in, and then you have all these horrible things happen, and then you end up coming out feeling as though you have wasted your time. How many of you have gone through that? Oshun, it's good to see you. This symbol that I use for this principle, here we have, no, actually, we start from here. Okay, this is the symbol for pecar. Pecar, and this is the R, which is the mouth. Pecar, kind of a rolled R. Pecar, and then you have the double reed, which is the E sound. Pecar, pecari, and then this is the T, the bread up here, with, te, or the letter T, pekarit, and indicating time, the cycle of time. This down here is pekarit pu'ank, and you can find this in the Budge Dictionary, which means the circle of life. Many are familiar with that term from The Lion King. They have this really glorious opening song, The Circle of Life, and it talks about basically the cycles, right? So you've got the Lion King, and then you have the baby son that is born, and it was his season to be born, and it is his um, calling to end up becoming king and taking over for his father. Now, all that was taken from African lore, right? And you can even compare the whole story with the father and the son and the uncle Scar to the Wasir um, Satesh Heru story. And there are so many other African stories that have that same theme. But you're familiar with it, right? So, yeah, you saw how everybody just came together to celebrate. Oh, the baby cub is born. Okay, the future king is born, and everybody was honoring the cycle of his finally arriving. When you are in your season and people honor and recognize and celebrate it, it helps to feed you and compel you to stay on point and in your path. When you have a community, like I said yesterday, that ends up giving you love and reminding you of who you are and what you're supposed to do, it helps you to stay within your rhythmic pattern. All right? Because we all have our own flow. And sometimes the pattern calls for you to just stay still, restore yourself, and then get back up in it, renewed, encouraged, and willing to do what you know is within your calling. Does anybody have any questions? I missed the comment that Reverend Tammuz said, I find when I go back to scriptures, they hit me different depending upon my age or experience. I have different interpretations. Exactly. Yes. Yes. For the wise person, you're able to do a comparison and you realize, oh, wow, I missed that before. I didn't understand that before, but that's because you did not have the experience to um, uh, to really see. And with Kemetic teachings, there are continuous layers, layers upon layers upon layers. And it's meant to hit you in a way where at least you can extrapolate something the first time. But then it gets really deep. And if you're willing to go in deeper, then it will take you in deeper. You just have to honor the life experience that will give you that knowledge and give thanks for it. Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes it doesn't feel so cool. But again, Pekarit Pu'ank, circle of life. You have your balance where things will be here and then come back down here and then come back up here. But it's a full circle experience that gives you the knowledge and that opens up your first eye. Okay. So, are we good? By the way, don't think that some of these celebrities out here some where they may try to force fit relationships. Don't think that some of them haven't gone to somebody. That listen, when you do that, when you're trying to force people into your life with a relationship, it never works. And by the way, I didn't end up having my friend do anything to try to compel the other relationship to happen. I finally realized I need to leave that alone. And now, see, I didn't have the knowledge then that that's going to come back and smack you in the face, because you're not supposed to do anything that bends anybody's will to yours. Okay. Any recommendation on protecting energies, strengthen the ability to stay on the chariot? I showed my shashaut, my prayer beads, the other day. It's a great focusing tool. Also, you know, it's not talked about in Kemetic tradition, but the concept of Ori, which is in the Yoruba and Orisha traditions, if you will, you know, whether it's Regla de Ocha, whether it is Isheshe, no matter what it is, they, but well, no. Regla de Ocha, yes, Regla de Ocha does have, they do focus on Ori, but Ori is your head, and connecting with your higher self. This is your sensitive area where um, your wushe, your ashe is, and this connects you to your higher self. But in those traditions, you pray to your ori, which is your destiny, and connecting you again to your higher self, and the place of higher wisdom that is within you. And you sit and you meditate and pray to it, and then you listen. In our tradition, we start out like this to connect us with the higher self. See, the thumb is right here at the first eye. Okay. And then it expands to here, so that you are ultimately holding your head. Okay. So it is not really praying to your destiny, it is praying to your higher self, that spirit self that is in the spirit realm, that part of you that is still pure and that remembers who you are, and it's connected to you. You rejoin it once you leave this vessel. But what you are praying to is that higher self that is connected to the Most High, and that has all the memory of what your destiny road is supposed to be. Okay? Praying here, praying to Wujat, and then praying here is to Mother, Father, Creator. And with this, we do the Lord's Prayer in the Kemetic language. Mutnu Tefnu Necherupe Charit. To the Divine Mother and Father, Necheru, who are in heaven. Your names are sacred. There is, like, just like I was sharing about the power of the 23rd Psalm done in the Kemetic language, the Lord's Prayer done in the Kemetic language is also very powerful and aligning and affirming. Okay. And again, it is, then after that, I have another prayer where I'm dealing with the Most High and my spirit crew. So, being in touch in totality with all who are guiding you from an ancestral standpoint, that's another thing. Staying in touch with your ancestors and communing with them on a regular basis, because the fact that your ancestors, not people who died, because you can have people who were alive that you dealt with who did not necessarily have your best interest at heart, just because they were called family. So you have to be very careful to avoid them and not get syrupy sweet in imagining something that was not when they were alive, because what people are when they are alive is what they die as. So we cannot imagine, or should not imagine, them as these perfect angels, these angelic beings. Once they cross over, if they were rascals in life, they're gonna be that in the other life. Okay. If they didn't have your best interest in this life, don't all of a sudden imagine that they're gonna do right by you, because they will wreck you. All right. So you want to make sure you invite your highest and wisest spirit advisors, the Paut Necharu, the company of guardians who are around you. And Um, Studying the Kabbalion, because that gives you the understanding also of the patterns and energies of life and how you should navigate them, starting with the divine oneness, Nebuchur, okay, what we know as Nebuchur, um, and also way, the one, and also as Nechiru, and working down, acknowledging the auric energy and then also the physical energy centers that are within you. But the main thing is to make sure that you are, at the very least, remembering to pray, asking for your help from the higher self, and and doing that ultimate connection with the Most High and your ancestors. Boom. Any other questions? Okay. Speaking of chariot, you may be interested to know that the when chariots eventually did come into Kemet, that they were used for transportation, but they were also used in war, and so they had gigantic tortoise or turtle shell shields that were part of their soldiers' uniform and protection. And the term um, Shadi is the turtle. It also refers to God, my protector. And it was a praise name for Heru. Shadi or Shadi, which is where El Shaddai comes from. Nice tidbit for you to know. All right. Okay, so thank you all for being here, and have a really wonderful and blessed night and day tomorrow. And um, watch for the patterns, and this time from a rhythmic standpoint, the rhythm of life. We say Meria, which means much love. Heri, which is the name for your higher self and for your crown that connects you to your higher self. And it also means to be at peace. When you are in oneness with your Heri, which is similar to Ori, you are one with your Heri, all right? Then you are at peace. Teni, which means to be accountable. Jebewi, which means to be merciful, but apply mercy to yourself in the correct ways. When we mess up, yeah, we can fix it, all right? We have to examine, degeg, and um, then proceed forward with positive and pure intention. Yes. Ib. Yes. Okay. Have a blessed night. Sweet dreams. Reswinachem.